Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast, focused on providing valuable information for anyone looking to undertake a new build or extension project. We'll share our tips, tricks and stories from a building designer's perspective.
Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. I'm your host, Amelia, and we've got building designer Frank Geskus with us again. Welcome, Frank.
Hi, Amelia. What are we talking about this week?
Today we're going to talk about the B word.
The B word?
Yep.
No. Not budgets.
Yes, exactly, budget.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well.
Scary term.
For a lot of people it is. It's really funny sometimes because obviously we ask customers, oh, how much money do you want to spend? Or what's your budget? And some are fine, they just tell you, look, don't want to go past this, that's fine. Other people, it's like they won't tell us. So how do we design to, close to what you want to spend? It's funny, everyone's got different reactions to budgets.
Where do you start then? Like, a lot of people, I guess, out there, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what things are worth. Sometimes they're just going off a guess, and sometimes, they come in and they want all these things and then they realise that they can't afford all of these things. So what sort of things can we put in place so that, clients are on the right track?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It really is. But it comes down educating yourself. So, go to display homes, have a look, see how much stuff costs. Go online. Don't watch TV shows with all this fancy stuff in it that don't tell you how much it's worth. The Block, that's a cool show and all that, and some interesting ways they do things, but they don't talk about the dollars to do some of that stuff. You got to talk to builders, real builders, and look at what things might cost. We use a term, champagne ideas on a beer budget, because everyone has cool ideas, but they don't understand what it costs. But it even comes down to choosing the right block. I've had many instances where people have chosen a block. It's got a little bit of a slope on it, but we find, when we take a survey, get it back, it's got a really big slope on it, and instantly you've had 20% to the build on a reasonably steep block. If it's really steep, like lucky to get your car down, could be 30-35% more just in the cost of trying to get that built. Just getting it out of the ground to the underside of the floor, it's hugely expensive.
And it's not just sloping blocks either. We sort of touched a little bit on that when we talked about a few weeks ago rural properties. Yeah,
rural properties, yeah, because you got to pay for your own sewer system. And getting the power from the connection all the way to the house, and if you're 100 metres up further, that's expensive, the size of the cables. Your water lines get really expensive. Your NBN line, it's just got to go further, so it makes sense it's going to cost more. Just putting a driveway in cost so much more.
So where can customers go to get some costings done? Like, what's the process?
Well, it's very hard to figure some of those unless you've got a drawing or an idea. So how we do it, we understand their budget, we've got a little bit of an idea. We still require other, people with skill sets like quantity surveyors or even builders actually estimating some of these costs. So we like to do the design, we've got a good handle on where some of the things cost, but before we go for development application or planning, whatever you want to call it, we like to get a quantity surveyor to actually do costings on it. And they're just budget costings. So they're within 20-25% of what it potentially is. It's not choosing your kitchen or anything like that. It's just the basics on what it may cost.
Okay, and I guess some of it is a bit up in the air because you've got, the different finishes on things.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can change, costings tremendously.
Yeah. Hey, you choose a tile that might cost you, You see in the shop it might cost you $40 a square metre. Then X amount of dollars a square metre to lay. You can go all the way to a $200 tile per square metre or more.
It just depends on the finish that you want.
Yeah, and the quality of it. You could choose a certain type of shower. You can choose a certain type of bath. We've all seen these really cool baths, these standalone baths. They're not cheap. Plus the extra tiling that's involved, tiling all the way up the wall adds up.
Yes, I've just done that, so I know.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Depending on the type of vanity. Even the taps, the variance in pricing of taps. So it's being wise and what fits within your budget. But I totally get it for people. If you've never done it before, if you've got 2 bathrooms, you've got to get 2 taps, 2 vanities, 2 showers, whatever it may be. Walk-in showers are always more expensive than polymarble base.
Why is that?
The extra work with getting the floors right, where you just buy a base, bang, put it in position.
True, it's got to have the right fall, I guess, if you've got a
Yep.
walk-in one.
They come with a waste already, that type of things. Putting a graded trench in a walk-in shower, just that graded trench alone is probably worth more than a polymarble base in some cases, if you're getting a good quality one. And I suppose that, I need to point that out. With budget, you've got to look at the quality of the materials and fixtures you want to choose. There's big variance. You don't want to put cheap taps in. You don't want to put cheap tops in. Subject to where you're at, because stuff will fail.
It's the longevity of the project, I guess, isn't it?
And there's no different with light fittings. You can choose lots of nice light fittings, but is it reliable? Even choosing the right claddings. There's some wonderful stuff out there at the moment, and you could pay like brick veneer. It's about $110, $120 a square metre. As soon as you add a render to it, you've added $60 a square metre. A lot of people don't realise that. You're paying for that extra coating on top. But some of the really cool, like the Lysart or wall claddings or structural wall claddings, beautiful ribs, nice profiles, you could be anywhere between $165 to $265 a square metre, because you've got to get the it does, because you want the flashings to look really good, and the cost is in the flashings. How labour intensive? You don't know that. Most people don't know.
They just look at pretty pictures and say, I want that.
Very much so, and rightly so, because that's what you like, but also do the investigation, talk to lots of people, go to trade shows, go to display centres, talk to builders, go to their display homes. Don't just sit back, I would like that, but it's got to fit within your budget. If you've got a budget, that's fine. I'll go back to choosing the right block. Fundamentally, that is probably the biggest failure that we've seen. We see people buying a block, it's got a great view, it's awesome, it's got a bit of a slope on it. But then once they get into the design, they really need a 2-storey house to work on that block and work really well with the views and how you access and get the car in. People forget how, you've got to get the car in nice and easy. Then they come to the realisation they've got to put big retaining walls in. And retaining walls aren't cheap. Then the house is higher or cut into the side of the hill. You're paying for all excavation, pulling it out, putting retaining walls in, or, if it's on the downside, you're building retaining walls to sit the driveway on top of it. So you need advice, listen to builders. I know how many times I've spoken to builders where they've advised customers, don't buy this block. And they buy the block.
Oh dear.
Because I've told them their budget. And, there's frustration. We've done the same. It says your budget doesn't allow for this, but they get emotionally attached. So it's a tough one.
Actually, one of the things that has come up speaking with other colleagues previously is the fact that some things that you can try and skimp on doesn't actually always work in your favour.
No.
So, for example, you found a beautiful pendant light online and it's coming from overseas and it doesn't comply with Australian standards, so therefore you can't have it installed because an electrician here won't install it.
Yep.
And I mean, that's just one example. I mean, I'm sure there'd be plenty of others where you try and skimp to try and
you
stay
think it's
within
cheap.
your budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just doesn't work out. You just can't do it with some things.
Yeah, I remember we did a hotel refurbishment and the owner of the hotel said, I'll get all my stuff from China. And some of it was really good, but he didn't do his research. He ended up getting all these plumbing fixtures over and it came in the shipping container and all these granite tops and all this stuff. And barely 20% of it could be used because the actual fixtures didn't comply with Australian standards. He didn't specify the granite tops properly. They looked awful, what he saw, and he was kind of ripped off a little bit. So he was a bit shattered from that. And even to choosing the right tiles, it was a bit of a disaster. He lost a fair bit of money on that. I remember one guy, he tried to bring in glass balustrading and windows in from China. Again, they didn't comply with the Australian standards, and the building certifier or surveyor, depending where you are in Australia, went and did it, asked for certificates, couldn't supply them, and there was nothing to the Australian standards on this stuff. Says, no, it doesn't comply, we cannot keep this. Had to pull it all out.
That would be super expensive.
On a hotel, yeah. Imagine how many of those were, you're duplicating that all through these different rooms. It's being smart and listen to the advice of locals. Do your research. Finding the stuff that you like, work out the costs, and it takes time. You can go to project, depending on the type of house you have too. If you're after a nice project home, a lot of the project builders actually have all the pricing for all their fixtures, their standard inclusions, and they itemise it all out, and it's a really good setup. You can get some custom stuff done in there still, like vanities and other stuff. You can choose other tiles, and they will cost it really well. They're accurate in their costings.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. Like a lot of your, I guess, bigger builders, I don't know if some of the smaller ones do that too.
Yeah, depending their niche, and depending how well organised they are. And that comes down to you, when you receive your price, is having it well itemised, and you know what tap, what sink, what door handles, what skirting, what carpet. It doesn't matter what it is, it's all itemised in there. You know exactly what you're getting, even down to the rake of the brickwork. And that's a good quality builder that presents everything really, really well. If you're building a really custom home and you're relying on the designer or the architect to do that, you need to spend extra money with those guys to do your interiors and exteriors and specifying all the products to do really well in a custom home. Custom homes I've seen so many times where the budgets just get shattered because they haven't specified that they're choosing stuff on the fly. You need to do that really early on, during that design process. And having someone to help you with your interiors and exteriors and choosing all your products is a big help.
And I mean, that's a service that we offer here at Prime Design as well. And I know that, our interior consultant, she's involved in the process very, very early on.
Very much so, yeah. And now to the point where people are asking about choosing furniture.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, why create a space which is either not going to fit your existing furniture, or then you go out and buy this U-Butte couch that's not going to fit in the space properly. It either too big or too small.
That's usually the blokes buying the TVs. It doesn't fit on the wall, They just want this big TV.
They just think bigger the better.
Yeah, funny that.
It's all about cricket and AFL, I'm sure.
Nah, it's motorsport.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's your Frank Geskus.
Yeah, exactly. Petrol head. But, there's plenty of really good designers that can help you with choosing all your interiors, exteriors, and it's well worth doing it. Now, you might love doing it yourself, great, but that can be a good sounding board as well. Because sometimes just bouncing it off someone, see if stuff clashes, whatever, building mood boards, 3D rendered interior shots are very beneficial to help you with that. Yeah.
Definitely.
One of the other big things that we find with people don't allow for in budgets when they choose a block, you could be in a really high bushfire attack level area, So the higher the bushfire level adds more cost. You've got to get toughened glass, you've got to have special eaves, a whole ton of little things. And that adds up to the cost. Same with the type of deck. You may not be able to put the timber decking you want. You may have to go for something else that can handle the bow rating. What else was there? Landscaping. Have you allowed for your landscaping? Or when people talk about square meterage of a house, doesn't include an alfresco, doesn't include a deck. You put a decent sized deck on the side of a house, and that adds a lot of cost, but it makes the house, but it doesn't come into that square meterage cost of a house.
No, and that's why you've got to check what your inclusions are when you choose your builder as well.
Yeah, by then you've got, you might have some designs, and that's why it's really good to get budget pricing really early on in your concepts, doing that so it meets your budget. Also recommend you really need to keep 10% up your sleeve. So if you've got a $400,000 budget, you want to keep $40,000 as contingency. Purely because you might want to make a change during the process, or the kitchen design, you've got opportunity for nicer tops or whatever. But also you need to have a little bit of money up your sleeve. You've got to get curtains or blinds or whatever it may be. Fences, footpaths, things that people don't think of straight away. Allowing for your landscaping. Yeah.
Definitely. And even, you've been into a few new homes and there's bare minimum furnished,
Yep.
To start with.
Yep. 100%. Other things with budgets too, like when you go through your design process, like we'll talk about roofs one day, but I think you had an article on all different types of roofs describing. Standard roofs normally is a hip roof. As soon as you change that to a skillion roof, the builders tell me you're paying about 5% more on the total cost. It looks a lot simpler, but you add more exterior cladding to it, and the exterior cladding can be quite expensive, and then you get a little bit fancy with it. So that adds up real quick. Polished concrete, that's my favourite. Everyone thinks polished concrete is so cheap.
It's not cheap?
It's not cheap.
Why is it not cheap?
Well, for one thing, you've got to prepare the slab correctly and how they pour the concrete. I've seen some really old ones, and you can see where the boot marks are, where they've ground the concrete, and you see the aggregate, and you see where boot marks have been, because you see where the aggregate is kind of made circles, and that's where the boot marks were. So there's a technique on how to pour the concrete. There's different types of polished concrete. You've got burnished, fully cut it. There's all different types, and then you've got to put the coating on it. So what we've found is it's more of a high-end finish, because you've got to cure the concrete better than the coatings you put on it. There's a high expectation from the customer that no cracks. I'll give you the hint. Concrete cracks. It's a structural product. So what I was talking to someone the other day, they're now becoming more popular is putting another topping on top. And then they polish a topping that goes on top of it. It's like a screed. So you can choose the colour and the aggregate. It's like going back to the old 60s terrazzo.
Yeah, that's very popular finish at the moment.
Yeah. It's just bizarre how things come around in a slightly different slant. Again, that's not cheap, but it's a beautiful finish. If you want to spend the money and that's one of your things, yeah, certainly do that. Again, do your research.
And I guess too, you have to kind of weigh up what you're willing to sacrifice, what your priorities are, and where you're willing to put your extra cash as opposed to where you're willing to compromise.
That's a really good point, because, hey, to you, kitchen may be the most important thing to you. Well, then you put the extra money into that kitchen because that's what you like. Us guys, we might like a shed,
You might have a woman that quite likes a shed.
Fair point. Fair point.
Don't want to be sexist.
No, but guys like to dump all their crap in there, or have
Frankly, I'm really happy if there's a shed. My husband, if I could get rid of all of his crap and put it in a shed, I would be very happy.
Yeah, I wish I know my parents wished that they had a shed when I had car parts in my bedroom when I was younger. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. But yeah, it's seeing what's important. And to some people, it's outdoor entertainment. It could be spending more money on the facade, so how the house looks. Other people, it's sustainability. How well the house performs in the star ratings. Some people come to us, I want to meet a 7-star, 8-star house. And that's their priority. But that's okay. It's being clear on what you want and understand that you're willing to spend the money in that area to do that. And any designer should be able to, an architect should be able to, guide you through that process. But don't be scared to share your budget, and be fair dinkum and tell them not to go over it.
Well, otherwise, I guess we don't have a lot to go off, to draw, if we have no idea of your budget.
Oh, true. But also, even when we're collecting information at the start for, putting a fee proposal together, you've got to be fair dinkum about the quote. But we'll tell you if you think you're unreasonable, i.e. you haven't got enough money to build what you want to build. But that's okay. But then we can work with them to see what we can build for the money.
And I guess that's why it's so important to develop, the scope of what you're actually after. We actually spend quite a lot of time putting that stuff together.
Oh, it's foundational. Mate of mine, Mike Cleaver, taught me that. He believes out of the whole process is just work on your scope. So the customer's clear, you're clear, everyone's clear. That's the scope. That's what we want to achieve. And it's being real and be honest with each other too. If you say, look, I really think you need to, spend another $100,000 to achieve what you want, you've got to say, as a designer, you've got to say that. And yes, sometimes the reactions aren't great, but I'd rather be truthful in saying what we think things cost. But also we say, if you don't trust us, talk to a builder. That's why we love having builders come into the process too. When it comes to budgets, builders can be part of that whole process, and they can be straight up, no, if you go down this track, like if you want to put a cathedral ceiling or a rake ceiling in your living area, it will potentially cost you X because of these reasons. And that's why we love working with builders during a design with the customer.
And then we work with quite a lot of builders.
Yeah, it's great.
It is good.
Yeah, and everyone learns from that too, because builders have got a wealth of knowledge. A good quality builder, they don't want to build a house that you're going to run out of money on.
No, this is very true. That could be problematic. So you get a half-built house.
If you've got a builder lined up, and you've got budgets, you've got your ideas, build the team. It's the best way forward.
So, say for example, I want to build a house and I don't know where to start. I don't know what my budget is. But all I know is I want a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, hip roof, something fairly simple. Where do I go from there? What do I look at? Are there resources? Where do I go?
That's a fair point. Where do you go? Come and see us. That's fine. But project builders are generally very good at this too. Guys that have got standard plans, they can guide you through those. They have standard plans, look at dollars, but you've got to be cautious of the price that they set for that house. Does it suit the block that you have?
And this is the problem that I think a lot of people have. They come in, they've got this idea of what they want, but is it even possible on the block they've purchased?
That's right. And that's why not to put yourself under pressure time-wise though too, because you can go talk to lots of different building companies. They have standard plans, look at the block, and work a solution out. So I honestly believe not only just research the block, make sure when you buy a block it is suitable, and most builders, most designers would be happy to give you that advice. But also then talking to lots of builders, building companies, designers, and just look at advice, resources online. I mean, Google, how much information can you find on Google? It's ridiculous. Heaps, absolutely heaps. And you can learn lots about that. You don't have to go down rabbit holes in, all these pretty pictures, go on Pinterest and Instagram, look at the pretty pictures and stuff, but you need to find fair income information specific to your state as well. Tasmania's cost of building is very different to Victoria and New South Wales, so you've got to be aware of that. You can't expect to build the same square meterage per dollar on the big states like Victoria and New South Wales as you can in Tasmania. And that's just fact. We're far more expensive to build in Tasmania. So you've got to take that into account as well. And educating yourself, go to trade shows, go to all this type of stuff, and listen and learn. There's plenty of webinars online and, YouTube and stuff like that for the local areas. There's a lot of stuff on there too that is very specialised in building too. That's the other thing you've got to be cautious of. You've got people, selling their wares. You've got passive house ideas and all these, you see straw bale, rammed earth, mud brick, all that, which is all awesome stuff, but it's high-end stuff. It's very expensive.
Just depends on what you want.
Focus on what's important to you. And the main thing is if you've got a dollar amount, do your research and stick to it. But look, we still... we have people come in, they're not sure. We're happy to guide them through, give them some free information, look at the process, understanding the process, what to look out for. We want to educate people from start to finish all the way through. So then, they're comfortable what to expect all the way through. Even right to the end when they're about to hand over the house, doing a thing called a defects inspection, having a look through the house and pointing out to the builder, there's a little mark here or whatever. You've got every right to do that within the contract. Again, read your contracts. Understand your contracts. If you don't understand it, go talk to someone about it.
That's a big one.
It can be. Non-standard products. This is a beauty.
Yes. Anything customised
usually
costs more.
Yeah, it does. Anything from fancy range hoods to you look at your ovens, your hot plates. You look at the variety. You go into a Harvey Norman or any other Good Guys or whatever, and look at the variety of what's available, and it's amazing. You've got to choose something within your budget.
And the variation of the cost can be quite
significant. Unbelievable. I was checking out range hoods, and I've got a personal hate for noisy range hoods because I've got one at the moment, and I'll never do it again. So you can buy a range hood, I think it's about $450, just normal, and they, just noisy as in an open plan setting. They're not great. So I personally don't like it. So I'm looking at, for a new house, I want a silent one. Well, I fell off my chair. They start at like $2,500.
Ooh, that's expensive.
But I'm going to consider it.
Because that's what's important to you.
Yeah, I hate the noise. I want to have it quiet, and they work very well. So I will consider that. Now, whether my wife considers it, that's another different matter. She might want to spend more money on the hot plates and the oven and the sink and the benches and stuff like that.
So you'll rev a V8, but you want a quiet range hood.
Okay, don't go there.
Yeah,
seriously,
that makes no sense.
Oh,
to me
come
in my
on.
mind. Yeah. Don't know.
What, do you like noisy range hoods?
Not particularly, but I don't like noisy cars either.
Oh, come on. It's got to sound good. You haven't got the bug. You haven't got the bug, have you?
No, that's a debate for another day. We could go on about that for ages.
So another one to consider is soil conditions. Oh, speaking of noise.
Speaking of revving,
yeah,
someone's lit up the motorbike outside.
There's a Harley. We'll have a word to them later.
Yeah.
There he goes. Soil conditions, when you're buying a piece of land, is understanding what the soil conditions may be. And this is where it's totally like black magic to a lot of people. They don't understand. Oh, it's an A, S, M, H, P, E.
That doesn't mean anything to me. That's just letters of the alphabet.
Exactly, but to engineers, they drool over this stuff. So, okay, they don't drool over it. Helps them to design what is required for the house. So, if you're able to get a soil report with the piece of land that you have, that's awesome, because then you can take that to someone who does understand it, and a lot of designers would understand them. Specifically, you talk to engineers about that. But if you've got a H2, an E or a P, that's going to be a bit of a problem.
So what does that kind of relate to, like what sort of foundations you can have for your house?
Yeah, it's expense.
Has to be reinforced?
Yep, all that. So basically, everything below your floor that you'll never ever see, you could be dumping tens of thousands of dollars into that and you'll never even see it.
Wow.
Like, lots. So you could be on a P, which is called a problem site, and one of the main problems I use that for is it's full of fill. So the developer makes it look wonderful and they dump a heap of soil on there, and you've got to pay get your footings down into something more solid. So here locally, the most classic one we had was a place called Elfinwood, used to be the old showgrounds, and we had some places we had to drill down 2.2 metres to find something decent to sit the house on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they put that much fill on top of it?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. And so you got tens of thousands of dollars that you'll never ever see in your house.
They don't advertise that in the real estate ads, do they?
Oh, funny that.
Funny that, yeah.
Yeah. Actually don't like it. I wish that every site should have a soil test if it's for sale, so you can make a decision.
Some of the ads that I've seen, they don't even advertise whether you can even build on the property or not. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, they're trying to sell a piece of land. Yeah, look, we had one client came to us up the river, up the Tamar River, and it was landslip. And it wasn't just low landslip, medium landslip. It was actually really high risk. And in the end, they spent $45,000 on reports to say, no, you can't build your house on there.
Oh, that would be absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it was a terrible experience for them.
That's one way to blow your budget.
Well, in one sense, but they just couldn't build on there.
That's terrible.
But you're stuck with a piece of land you can't build on.
So, I guess that comes back to getting your soil report.
Doing your research before you buy.
Yep.
You know, even going to the councils. Some of the councils are quite helpful. In Tasmania, we're fortunate. We've got a thing called the list that has all the titles on it, but more importantly, you can go and put on these layers. And they have proclaimed land slips, low level, medium level land slips, so you can see the risk.
Super handy to have resources like that. Even the Plan Build website.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
Tells you all of the overlays. Bush.
But to the average punter, all those overlays and everything means nothing to them.
No, that's right. You kind of need someone to be able to interpret it for you, don't you?
Oh, look, and we're happy to help people. If you're not sure, just come and talk to us. Certainly guide you in the right direction, because there's nothing I dislike more. It breaks my heart watching people buy a piece of land, paid all this money for, and it's rubbish, or it's going to cost them a fortune to build on. Oh, I find it so wrong. It's heartbreaking watching that.
We don't want to see people suffer.
Well, no, but just because there's not an open disclosure on a lot of this information, where a lot of designers and architects in your local area know about stuff. You know, the conditions, the problems, the planning overlays. Oh, it can actually be serviced by water? You know, can it be serviced by sewer or stormwater, whatever? Again, doing your research. Don't fall in love with the block, which is very hard. It's like falling in love with a house, you know. You have emotional attachment. You can't help it. I totally get it. Same with cars.
That is debatable.
Oh, come on.
That's one way to blow your budget.
Oh, yeah. Look, cars are a bottomless pit. Budget and cars don't work.
Same with horses.
Ah, fair point. Yes. Yeah, you've got that addiction.
I do. Yep. 2 and counting.
Oh.
No, just 2.
I was about to say. Is there another one on the way?
I'll be in trouble.
Oh, really? Sounds like me with cars. Yeah.
Oh, Ronnie's a good woman.
Oh, yes. She tolerates a lot.
We might leave it there. Do your research on budgets, everyone.
You're listening to the Building Design Prime Time podcast.